Alright, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Parasite the Maxim, episode 7.
So Shinichi is in the middle of a chase after a parasite that he believes to be the one that killed his mom, but we don't really have any reason to think that it actually is.
Yeah, in fact, because of the way this is set up, I almost think it's guaranteed that it's not his mom, and that's part of what's going to be the
dramatic
conflict.
Effect.
Yeah, a part of the conflict of this next episode. And not just that, we also have our resident new wholesome normal girl who kind of likes him, Maki, chasing him because she just saw him jump the, like, what is that, like a hurricane barrier? Like some kind of, like, just water wall so that it doesn't flood.
It was a solid, like, 15 feet.
Yeah.
And he just hopped it.
Like, I have a pretty overactive imagination, like, for a person. But if I saw someone jump that...
Right, like, I could theoretically understand if they got a running start, did a bit of a run, and then they grabbed the top of it, sure. But just, whoop, it's like...
Yeah, I think I would have a moment of, like, I didn't see that right. Like, something about that would be like, wait, what? But I would exactly do what she's doing, and I would be like, holy crap, I need to go see what they do next.
I might be a little bit more terrified than that, especially with, like, mincemeat murders that have been happening. But this will be interesting. Hopefully she's okay.
This will be something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
The dad is nearby in the hospital, and he is trying to not spread his crazy by rejecting what he saw. And
Migi requires 4 hours of uninterrupted beauty rest each day.
Yes, so there is a vulnerable moment during the 24-hour, setup that he's vulnerable. Right. So we are getting more complications, and that is good. And that's good. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Cool. Okay. That was like a clever end to that little mini arc, basically.
Yeah, I really liked how they handled that, because they didn't have it just be something as simple as, Shinichi kills some other parasite. It's, no, there's someone else like him, right? Yep. Which is huge, because now it's like, okay, I got someone else that I can kind of talk to about this stuff. But then they also did the whole thing with Migi explaining some of the stuff that happened, and exploring a bit more of what that could mean, given that, like, okay, well, did they make it up to the brain? Who knows? They might,
they have independent, conscious thought capabilities.
Right, even though they're at such a low level that it's like microorganism kind of like, consciousness where it's like, do stuff,
Right, but there's nothing that says they can't grow. They couldn't get more capability by ingesting the blood, by basically working in tandem with the body.
Sure.
In some ways, you could look at them and say, okay, they're at the microscopic level. Like, they're so low, they are at the size of a red blood cell.
Right.
Microscopic. You cannot see them. So that's like, okay, that means it's not a problem, I would say, anytime soon.
Right. It's just that Shinichi, basically, the rest of his body is now like 10% parasite or something.
Yes.
Or 5% or whatever.
Or,
but it's still
0.5%. Whatever. Yeah. The main thing is that they have an effective survival instinct that kicks in when he is in danger.
Right.
When Shinichi is in danger, these little... flock of little parasites all throughout him, they, attach themselves to the muscles, the nerve endings, to all the places to make sure that he's moving perfectly in tandem, which means that they have to be attached to the central nervous system at some point, which means that they're receiving signals from the brain and communicating with the brain at the very least on some part of a level.
And what I'm guessing is that because they're so small, it's something where basically they got into their position and they can't really move from that, position. Like they've kind of integrated with the body.
Probably could. Like they're probably circulating through the circulation system, the circulatory system. Like I could see some of them.
Possibly.
Like helping his blood move faster so that he can breathe quicker to accelerate with his running.
But that seems more of the kind of thing where they would do that by like latching onto the heart and
like pumping it faster.
Yeah, and pumping it faster rather than actually being in the bloodstream. The bloodstream seems like it would be more like the means of like distribution.
Right, but like maybe they're in there also for the, okay, where are we needed? Oh, we're needed over here. Go, 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 go. Like, go to the legs quickly.
That would be crazy.
Because then they could shift over to the leg muscles, and then they shift over to that like arm to
one
that,
of the things that
shoulder.
The way I'm probably going to think about it until we see something different is that they distributed evenly pretty much.
Sure.
And this is the fact of them not being able to communicate with each other and Migi not being able to communicate with them is a very big deal, because otherwise with Migi's whole setup, why not just do that and completely disperse himself and then take over the brain and boom, there we go, right? Now he's largely in charge, and the fact that they make that so that Migi would not be able to do that means that they can still keep that point of plot conflict in there of that Migi would, potentially still want to take over Shinichi if he could.
Yes. Another thing is that I don't think Migi wants to put himself in a position of weakness where another... Sorry, did I say Shinichi? Where Migi wants to put himself in a position of weakness where another Migi could oust him.
Oh.
like think about this here. They're capable of individual conscious thought.
Yeah.
And decision making.
Mm-hmm.
They are a separate entity then. They are a different being.
Basically, Migi, if Migi could theoretically in the future be like, okay, we need to up your capabilities a bit. Mm-hmm. I'm going to distribute more of myself into the rest of your body.
Yeah. It's like worms, basically.
Right. The thing is that Migi would always want to have at least 51%, controlling interest in a localized location. Otherwise, because they still have the directive, even though they're not really able to complete it, of join back, right? And if they all join back, but then it's a separate thing. Now, granted, there's the whole transition of like, it's still Migi, so would Migi really care that much?
Well, I think once they've joined back, they go back to being under Migi's control.
Sure. And if it was something like that, then where, say, Migi went down to 20% and then the other 80% reformed, well, then Migi would just be like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll now join back into you, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it might be a thing also where it's time spent separate might make it more of a problem for Migi. So the more time something would have separate from him, the more chance it would have from deviating from the original course.
Right,
but especially since the directives of Migi are so simple, like survive, that I don't think there's really too much potential for conflict yet.
And that they're not capable of conscious thought as of right now, because that's where you would really run into trouble. It's not so much with the microscopic organism type things, because that's very predictable, simple behavior.
Yeah.
But if you had them be conscious and they were separate long enough, they could get their own sense of identity. Like it almost reminds me of like the idea of the memory wipes in Star Wars for droids.
Sure.
You don't want them to get too individualistic because while having that sense of individualism is very helpful with certain tasks and things like that.
Right.
If they go like that too long, then they could start questioning things you don't want them to question.
If droids could think, there'd be none of us here.
Right.
So we have this new character,
Uda, I think.
Uda, I think it's Uda. I think he had another name that was a little bit longer, but Uda is
and
wholesome
Parasite.
boy. Uda and Parasite, yes, and I like that because Uda was turned recently, very recently comparatively to Shinichi, yeah.
Well, and also he wasn't in school, so he wasn't in a place of learning, so there was probably less useful things for Parasite to absorb.
Right. Well, what we know specifically with regards to Migi was that he was surfing the web when
when Shinichi was in school.
It was in school and asleep.
Yeah.
So Shinichi is a little bit more, properly trained, and the idea that maybe we have the single NEET here,
basically,
who sits at home and watches TV and cries a lot,
and straight up with the whole thing of like he has to run, but he's not that great at cardio. Yeah.
There's a lot of things about him that would make me think that the Parasite would be a little less developed, even if there was a very small margin of time from when Uda was parasited, essentially.
And just the fact that like the fact that it took over the respiratory system, that is actually a really big deal. They brought it up here, but like now granted, because it's a parasite, then maybe it could like regulate the respiratory system better, and then hey, maybe, you know, Uda could get in better shape or something. But in a fight, Uda would have to Uda's contribute. Not really Uda would have to contribute, but he's not the one doing the breathing, really.
Well,
so it, like if Parasite's fighting, Parasite also would have to have that part of them that's breathing to keep Uda functioning, right? Whereas with the right hand, it's just an appendage. And then even if Shinichi is not actually fighting, like in the beginning, right? He's still doing all the things to keep the body, you know, humming, right?
Right.
And then Migi can just draw off of that as a parasite.
Yeah. Do you think, though, that given that they've introduced now a second person that has the... We didn't get the brain, but like we found a way to coexist kind of situation. Yeah. And it's because of a freak, you know, kind of accident. Like
extenuating circumstances.
Very extenuating circumstances. Do you think that they're going to introduce more of them like this, and they're going to form their own kind of society of people that will integrate, and they'll all start to do the even more integrated type of things with their parasite
I could definitely see that.
By being like, okay, I need you to, over the course of time, break off infinitesimally small particles of yourself into the system of this person to help their overall lifestyle, their health, just stuff like that. And we might be able to find a balance where both species can live out. Like it doesn't work if they've already taken over the brain because there's
no other
control.
Identity. Yeah. They would have no reason to do that anyway. Well, actually,
mind flayer.
Actually,
you know,
they
basically
could have a reason to do that still, if you think about it, because then they could get the body to be more responsive. So because usually
maybe we don't want to tell everyone about that.
Because usually, like with these battles, even with the parasite that Shinichi fought this episode, the host was just standing there and then tentacles flailing around, right? But if you had the human host running around stupid fast while the tentacles are flailing around, suddenly it becomes a lot more complicated.
Yeah, it goes from tentacle powers are OP to tentacle powers are always OP. Now, one of the things that I thought was really cool here is that they had the opportunity to have the workaround be the same thing that happened with Shinichi and Migi, but they had something different happen. Yes,
it wasn't, and in some ways, it's like Migi took the much more like classical medical approach of I will fix the heart, whereas Parasite took the like I've seen anime, right? And it's like, you attack the same place. I'm going to move that organ, so you think you killed me, but you missed. Like,
well, I think it's genius.
It's genius. But I love how it's a different solution to essentially the same problem.
Right. Now,
granted, it was a preventative measure rather than a responding measure to the issue, right?
Yes.
But I still like that was something that was done. So, like, just Shinichi's thing of like the Migi, distributing, portions of themselves throughout the body and everything, better, symbiotic relationship. Great.
Right.
That wouldn't even necessarily have to be the one solution for the group of people if they end up getting a group, because different parasites could come up with different solutions. It's like, I just moved the organs around. Oh, great idea. Yeah.
And they end up talking to each other and creating what is the best thing about any kind of community is communication. The creativity and strength in numbers.
Like imagine a parasite think tank where it's just a bunch of parasite people, with parasite humans with human beings, sitting around a table, and they're like, okay, so what's the best way to integrate? Well, we could do this, but what about that?
Based on my recent studies, like there's one like that has like 6 smartphones in his hand. He's like, I've been searching up like all kinds of studies on human psychology and behavioral psychology.
One of the parasites is like, hey guys, there's these websites where you can go to for reading where they'll place all the words in the same spot, so you just focus your attention on one spot and you can boost your knowledge absorption by 75% or something. Oh wow, that's great, let's all do that.
God, it's hilarious, because one of the things that this dynamic leads to is that the trope of the guy in the chair, the one who's basically your info gatherer for the protagonist, and all the parasites in those situations, like the think tank thing, could be that. for the human protagonist, and then also the kind of the one that hacked the system of the human body and turned it into this machine. Well, and this really powerful thing. Yeah.
And you mentioned this in earlier episodes, but if you have something like that, the natural then extension of that is, you know what? I think we would do a lot better if we could all just sort of fuse together. Let's just all this communication talking, that's inefficient. Let's make a hive mind. Like that'll be way better. Oh man.
That's where things get really scary.
Like elder brains and mind flayers
basically there's a lot of things that correlate to like typical tropes of how the fantasy sci-fi parasites go and eat the brains, replace them with their own kind of thing. But when you have that kind of directive, usually there's a follow-up directive that's in conjunction with that first directive as like you've now done mission step 1.
You've completed phase 1.
Mission orders will follow on week 6 of the overall campaign.
So the thing that you mentioned about like what if the microscopic organisms of Migi that are spread throughout Shinichi, if they were able to actually grow, the next step for any of the ones that have taken over the brains of humans would be to separate a portion of themselves, have it eat another brain, and turn into another brain, and then eventually, recover in all that time, but grow back to the original mass and duplicate and keep doing that. Because
so one parasite would become, 50 eventually.
Because we still haven't seen how parasites actually reproduce, because we know that when they have children with their human host...
We know with Tamiya Ryoko is that she literally was like
experimenting
pregnant,
with that, and she is pregnant
with a
human baby. So how do you make more parasites? Because the thing is that the whole idea of the parasites wiping out the human race, they could totally do that. But the thing is, if there's a set number of them, then at best they wipe out the human race and that's it. And then they die out. Humans go to, figure out maybe how to go to space for, 100 years or whatever. 12 the parasites are gone.
How to have an escape velocity device that launches another group of 100 million spores, out there.
Well,
somewhere.
I mean,
But then how do they create those spores?
How do they create the spores? Yeah, exactly.
And
the fact that's actually very curious. The fact that they were spread here by spores. Doesn't because that whole larva form, that doesn't seem that's fundamentally different than anything we've seen since then.
There's a big one on the moon, and it ejected basically like a huge spoof of itself. It just kind of splurged all over the earth and just and it just sent this huge cluster, and a bunch of them missed, but it calculated based on the rotation and the orbit of the earth. It's all right here, and they just kind of travel for 6 months or something, just really
or maybe
slowly.
It's some kind of life fiber sort of
oh my god
thing. Who knows? The parasites all turn into clothes,
Yeah, exactly. There was some really cool stuff that they did with Maki this episode.
Yes.
Maki has kind of cemented herself as being one of those kind of continuity side tertiary characters.
I thought you were going to say cinnamon roll, but yeah.
Well, yes, that too, but she's out there.
Yes.
And the idea is, I think this story started us off with a very simple MC. We were very aware of that. We're this guy is almost a bit too potato. But then it's wait, no. The reason for that is because we're going to go on a journey with this guy.
We're going to write some things on that blank slate.
Yes. We're going to change him. We're going to grow him. And that's going to take time.
Yep.
So if this show takes time, if it takes years potentially, I could see us bumping into her again later down the line.
Sure. Yeah.
And it could be a thing where she's still human, she's still wonderful, wholesome girl, and maybe she's helping, Shinichi with some issue in a future episode.
Yep.
Or maybe it's a thing of
she gets turned
into a parasite and we get to see her again, and it's Shinichi, you need to do something because this is spreading, this is not stopping,
and that's actually a good point.
Worse.
Theoretically, right now with where we're at, all the people that are parasites, unless we go into that whole thing of parasites, multiplying, or there's some second launch of spores,
that too.
Anyone that's not a parasite right now shouldn't become a parasite.
Ah, okay.
Think about it, because the parasites don't have a long shelf life, right? Like they need to get into a host very quickly. So, you know, a lot of them probably just die without even getting into a host, or they get into dogs and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So anyone that's not a parasite as of right now probably isn't ever going to be, unless we introduce some way for the parasites to multiply.
Okay. The reason why I think that's not going to be the case is because we know that the parasites can move hosts. We know that is a thing.
Okay, yeah. So
and also, while you're right in that they don't need to make any more necessarily, the idea of them just, you know, killing or consuming, you know, basically others, you know, just tearing them apart and stuff, like that is something that I feel like has its own shelf life of relevance for the parasites.
Oh, sure. They're not just going to be doing this forever. Yeah,
there's going to be a shift in directives, basically.
Yeah, and that's probably where they'll be able to take it into really crazy territory, because this is episode 7, right? And while the stuff that's happening here is awesome, it is very much preparation for something else. Right.
Well, this is a mini arc of the story to solve all the family stuff,
which was done fantastically.
Right, but now that we've done that, there was almost a meta point where they were like, it's over. Like now the family stuff is over.
And now Shinichi looks all grown up and everything.
Yep. And now he's come back to his place of normalcy.
Right.
And
home base.
Yeah. And everyone else is going to notice that he's different.
Right.
So how are they going to react to that? And then also, are we going to have any kind of like a time skip? Or is he going to basically try to have a quiet, normal life, you know, or something like that?
Sure.
Or is he going to...
hand.
Yeah. Or is he going to try and, you know, basically like, find out and discover more about this?
I'm curious to see how the other students respond to his new appearance, because while I get the feeling that there was a micro time skip of some amount, you know, I don't know, a couple months or something.
It's a very slight look difference, though. We notice it more, I'd say, because we're looking at things on that meta level.
Well, sure, and I guess the fact that he doesn't need glasses, but like he looks bigger now.
Well, he looks older.
Yeah,
He just looks older, and I don't even think it has anything to do with the glasses. I think it's just the way that his face is somewhat structured a little bit differently.
Well, but he looks taller. He looks like broader in the shoulders, like, and that's something where, because everyone else is still in high school, like, you know, with the opening, I thought it was going to be something where it's like, okay, and then we'll see them in college or post high school, or, you know, whatever. But this could theoretically still be at high school, but he just looks like, you know, he's in his early 20s or something.
Yeah, and this is something that I don't know if I brought it up yet, but I think this is something that we'll end up bringing up as well, is that the parasite itself is a parasite. What do parasites do? They extract the energy and life force, if you will, of their host in order to basically form a corruptive symbiotic relationship. Like, it's not really symbiotic, but it's a parasitic relationship. Instead of there being a give and take, which there kind of is actually between Migi.
Well, right, and that's why they're kind of the exception.
They are the exception.
In most cases, it's just a parasitic relationship. It takes over, you know.
But it's still, I would say, somewhat of a parasitic relationship, because
Scorpion on the frog kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, sure. That's even darker than I was going to go with it. But I'm just going to go with it in the fact that I think Shinichi's lifespan is already shortened a little bit. Because he's not actually being maximized for the effectiveness of the body with regards to, you know, the long term.
Yeah,
they did mention in the previous thing about the whole thing of if they combined, they could double the lifespan.
140 years.
Yeah. But I don't think that's what's happening here.
Well,
I think he's aging a little bit quicker actually because of the stress he's been put under by needing to survive.
So I like that idea.
Yeah.
But because they introduced the idea that parasites could very easily run a human for way longer than a human would normally go,
I think that's if they get the brain, though.
Well, okay, but because of that, I don't think it's going to be something where it will end up being reduced below what a human would normally do. You know,
sure.
Like it might, like
he's not going to die at 25 or something.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he probably will in terms of the story.
I mean, violent end is always a possibility.
Yes, but in terms of a natural death.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm meaning more like 2 years. Like, you know, he just lost 2 years off of his life off of this whole encounter here or something
maybe
like that. Like I don't think the aging up of his look was just a thing to showcase that he's gotten colder, more mature, and everything.
No, I don't think it was just that either. What I think it is that it's a result of the microscopic versions of Migi that are in his body that are basically improving him.
Oh, okay.
So basically, he hadn't fully matured. So boom.
So they're forcing maturity,
right? Which
is aging him faster.
But that doesn't mean that he'll leave that mature state.
Ah, I see.
You know,
so it's not that they are bringing him towards death faster. They're bringing him towards peak levels faster,
right? And then once he's in that peak level, they're going to
try and maintain
that. Yeah,
I see. That actually makes a lot of sense from the standpoint of storytelling, where if you take the story to go for a longer period of time, what you have is then people like Murano, who might age a little bit faster than him.
Yep. And then that's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other piece of
and then that whole idea of humans and parasites forming a true like symbiotic relationship as species, right? Then there's a lot more motivation for that, because then it's a thing of like, well, I don't want my loved ones to grow old and die before me, right?
Wow.
You know, and then it's like, maybe we can figure out how to get them, you know, bonded with a parasite in a proper way.
That's actually a really good point. Like, do you see that this is a thing where they could like because I think Migi is the real key here to this.
Okay.
If Migi can talk and reason with another parasite before they've entered the brain. Like, I don't think that'd be possible because they're basically a baby, right?
Right. They're a larva, really, yeah.
Right. They're.
But if you keep them from entering the brain and then post, you have Migi talk with them.
Yeah, but still that. I don't know. How would you do it? Would you basically just like here's an example.
Do the same kind of thing that Shinichi did.
Yeah. You belt
tourniquet
buckle on the and then you just. Everyone put your hand in glass boxes that have...
Right.
Okay, sure. I just see that this is a thing where they'll either go really hard into we need to think about the world, or we need to think about the future of us as individuals.
Sure.
And they won't ever bring it to the species level decision making.
Right, stuff. but that could be a representation or an example or a first step, whatever. Right. Something that sets the precedent theoretically for the species if they did want to, like, if they wanted to do a time skip and be like, where are humanity and parasites now? 200 years later or something.
Yeah, I think the theoreticals are more interesting than actually showing us with regards to what the deep future is, but more something where they have a plan for the future, and then we as human beings and parasites needs to just hope for the best.
Right.
Because in a lot of ways, like, you don't have to be a study of humanity in a great sense of the way to have like your faith in humanity kind of tested. Like, let me turn into a positive. Having faith in humanity for the long term is hard.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
There we go. So more about the potential side of things is interesting. Yep. But
Great episode.
The stuff with the dad was sweet. I love that Uda was kind of just a wholesome boy, kind of like.
I'm glad he's not dead.
Yeah, like he's gonna be around and stuff as well. So that's sweet. Freaking what's her name? ESP girl.
Oh yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Like, she sensed him. Like, there's a difference between being like, I have a very high passive perception, and when I see someone, I can tell that there's something different. But like, like,
she sensed a disturbance in the force, y'all.
Right.
Like, is she a Jedi?
Yeah. I don't know, because she's not a parasite, unless she somehow figured out how to mask her presence.
We're going to get introduced, Jacob, to this other type of spacefaring creature that has been hunting the parasites across the cosmos for eons. I know. That's not going to happen.
Paladins and jumpers have been killing each other for years. Oh boy.
Go on. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us about these stories or about anime in general, or get involved in community events on Discord as well. Or you can also talk with Jake about his book on Amazon.
Yes, so my sci-fi novel, Battle Lines, is still available for order on Amazon. The link is in the description. There are some signed copies left, I believe. So check it out.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah. So if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. And I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.